I remember the exact sound the kitchen made that night, the soft sizzle of onions in the pan, the quiet hum of the fridge, and my husband humming the same old tune he always hummed when he cooked. Light, careless, almost too at peace. I was leaning against the doorway, watching him sprinkle salt like he was on some cooking show, when his phone buzzed on the counter. Just one notification, one message. But that single vibration felt like a punch to the chest, because the screen lit up bright enough for me to read the text without even trying. "I miss you." From her. His coworker, Ashley. My breath caught in my throat. In that moment, everything in my body went cold except my heartbeat, which slammed against my ribs so hard I thought he could hear it. I picked up his phone. He didn't notice. He was too busy flipping something in the pan like a proud husband cooking dinner for his wife. But I stared at that message like it was a live grenade. "I miss you." Not, "Did you finish that report?" Not, "Are you working tomorrow?" Not anything remotely professional. Just 3 little words that should have never belonged in a coworker's mouth. I don't even know what possessed me. Pain. Maybe. Rage. Or that twisted mix of numbness and clarity a woman gets when betrayal finally shows its face. My fingers moved before my brain did. I unlocked the phone. He never changed his code. How thoughtful. And I typed back, "Come over, baby." I hit send. For a moment, the kitchen went silent in my head. No sizzling pan. No humming husband. Just the echo of my heartbeat and the taste of something metallic on my tongue. Then he turned around. "Food's almost Rhea." He froze. He saw his phone in my hand. He saw the notification open. He saw what I sent. The color drained from his face so fast it was like someone pulled the plug on his entire body. "Laura, what did you do?" he whispered. I didn't yell, didn't cry, didn't throw anything. My voice came out cold, steady, foreign. "I replied for you," I said. "She says she misses you. I figured you wouldn't want to leave her hanging." His eyes widened, panic setting in. He grabbed a towel, turned off the stove, nearly knocked over the skillet. He reached for the phone, but I held it tight. "You don't understand," he breathed. "She doesn't, that's not what it looks like." "Oh, really?" I said. "Then what exactly does 'I miss you' look like between coworkers?" He opened his mouth, closed it again. His tongue fumbled for an excuse, but his face told the truth. Guilt, fear, and something else. Something that made my stomach turn. He wasn't worried about me. He was worried about her. Before he could spit out whatever lie he was scrambling to find, a new bubble popped up on the screen. "Ashley. On my way. Can't wait." My husband paled even more, if that was possible. "Laura, please don't do this," he stammered. "She's gonna misunderstand." I laughed. A short, sharp, broken sound I didn't recognize. "Oh, trust me," I said. "I think she understands perfectly." I placed his phone back on the counter like it was contaminated. My hands were shaking, but my voice stayed calm. Too calm. "The woman who texts my husband that she misses him is now coming to my house. Your house, our house." He stepped toward me, hands out like he was approaching a wounded animal. "Babe, listen, she's been going through a rough time. I've just been helping her, being supportive. She leans on me a lot, that's all." I tilted my head, eyes burning. "She leans on you," I repeated quietly. "And you let her." He swallowed, hard. "Nothing happened," he insisted. But even he didn't sound convinced. Then something hit me, something deeper than betrayal, deeper than the pain. It was humiliation. I had been standing there, night after night, watching him chop vegetables, season meat, stir pots, thinking I was watching a loving husband. Meanwhile, he'd been building an emotional home with someone else. And tonight, she was walking through our front door. I stepped back. "You need to leave," I said. "That's my house too," he shot back, desperation creeping in. "Then go stand outside," I said evenly, "because she's coming here for you. And I'll be damned if I let the other woman walk inside and see me falling apart." He stared at me like I'd slapped him, but I wasn't finished. "When she gets here," I said slowly, "you're going to tell her everything. Right here, in the kitchen, in front of me." "Laura, please." "You owe me the truth," I snapped. You owe me the respect, and you owe me the closure. He ran his hands through his hair, pacing, shaking, muttering curses under his breath. But I didn't move. I stood perfectly still in that doorway, watching the man I thought I knew unravel like cheap thread. And then, a car pulled into our driveway. Headlights flashed through the blinds. My husband's breathing hitched. Mine stopped. And the woman who texted him, "I miss you," stepped out of her car, walking straight toward our front door. The doorbell rang. The sound sliced through the house like a blade. And that's where our story begins. If you'd met us a year before that night, you never would have guessed our marriage was rotting from the inside. From the outside, we looked like one of those picture-perfect suburban couples. You know, the ones who mow their lawn on Saturday mornings and wave to neighbors like life is always kind and predictable. We lived in Richmond, Virginia, a quiet neighborhood with maple trees lining the streets and kids biking around in the afternoons. Our house was modest but warm, full of framed photos from vacations and anniversaries. People always told us, "You two look so happy." And for a long time, I believed that too. I grew up in a working-class family in Pennsylvania. My parents loved each other, but they argued constantly: money, responsibilities, life wearing them down. As a kid, I watched my mom swallow every disappointment and pretend everything was fine for the sake of keeping the family together. I promised myself I'd never be like her. And yet, there I was, years later, doing exactly that. Holding the pieces of a marriage by myself, ignoring the cracks because I didn't want to accept what they meant. I worked as an elementary school art teacher. Kids were the one place in my life where honesty still felt possible. They drew their feelings, blurted out the truth, laughed without holding back. With adults? Not so much. I wasn't bold. I wasn't confrontational. I was the woman who apologized even when someone else bumped into me. I made excuses for people. I gave second, third, fourth chances. And my husband took advantage of that kindness like it was an endless well. Daniel was charming. The kind of charming that didn't feel forced. He had one of those warm, crooked smiles that made you forget whatever you were mad about. The type of laugh that made people lean in closer. People loved him: family, friends, strangers, coworkers, especially coworkers. Daniel worked as a team lead at a software company. Long hours, multiple deadlines, and a lot of time spent with the same group of people day in and day out. For years, he was dependable, funny, lighthearted, focused. But lately, he'd become distant, detached, easily irritated, like I was always interrupting something important. He'd come home later and later, claiming traffic or overtime or, "The team is really struggling right now." He canceled date nights. He forgot things he never used to forget: our anniversary dinner reservation, my doctor's appointment, even my birthday lunch. And when I asked him if everything was okay, he'd sigh, run a hand through his hair, and say, "Laura, not everything is about you. I'm tired." That line. That damn line. It chipped away at me every time. Ashley came into his life 2 years ago, fresh out of grad school. Pretty, confident, sharp. She had that bubbly, witty personality people found irresistible. I met her 3 times. The first time, she hugged me like we were old friends. The second time, she complimented my earrings and said, "Daniel said, you have great taste." The third time, she slipped. Just a little. Just enough. We were at Daniel's company banquet. Everyone was drinking, laughing, celebrating some big project completion. Ashley walked over and nudged Daniel's shoulder with hers. He smiled at her. Not the normal coworker smile. A softer one. One I recognized. She turned to me and said, "You're lucky. He's always helping me out." Her tone was innocent, her smile bright. But something in the way Daniel shifted beside her made my stomach twist. I brushed it off. I told myself I was being insecure, reading too much into things. But the truth? Women know. We always know, even if we pretend we don't. When Daniel and I first married, we were partners, genuinely. We cooked together. We talked late into the night. We laughed until our sides hurt. We had dreams. We actually worked on vacations, maybe a kid someday, maybe a little cabin up in the mountains. But somewhere along the years, The partnership became one-sided. I tried to fix things. I suggested therapy. He refused. I tried talking to him gently. He shrugged me off. I tried giving him space. He took advantage of it. Slowly, without noticing, I became the wife who waited. Waited for him to come home. Waited for him to remember me. Waited for him to choose me again. I didn't realize that the moment you start waiting for your partner to come back to the relationship, they're already halfway gone. Jenna was my best friend since college. Bold, blunt, zero patience for men who acted shady. She'd been telling me for months, "Laura, something is off. He's not treating you right." I brushed it off every time, told her he was stressed, overworked, burnt out. But the week before the "I miss you" text, she'd said something that stuck to my ribs like glue. "You're trying so hard to save a marriage he's not even holding on to anymore." I didn't want to believe her. I didn't want to admit that maybe I had become like my mother, a woman fighting alone for something that was already dead. Looking back, there were red flags everywhere. Little ones. Daniel suddenly protecting his phone, turning the screen away when messages popped up, leaving the room to take a work call. And bigger ones. Him showering the moment he got home. Him smelling like a perfume that wasn't mine. Him smiling at his phone at bedtime. But the one that haunts me most? One night, I walked into the living room and found him staring at his phone with this soft look on his face, a look he hadn't given me in months. He locked the screen quickly, too quickly. I'd asked, "Who was that?" He said, "Just work." I said, "You're smiling at work notes now." He didn't answer. Just walked away. And I followed, silently, not realizing that I was tracking the footsteps of a man already slipping from my life. People always think betrayal happens in one big moment. One text, one lie, one slip. But betrayal is slow. It's sickness before symptoms. The night Ashley texted, "I miss you," I didn't just lose trust. I lost the last pieces of denial. I finally saw what I'd been avoiding. My gentle, soft-spoken husband had built an emotional world with another woman, and left me standing outside of it. That night didn't break our marriage. It just exposed the fracture that had been growing beneath our feet for months. If the night Ashley texted, "I miss you," was the explosion, then the weeks leading up to it were the slow, steady burn of a fuse. Looking back, it feels like I was living with a man who was already rehearsing his exit. But at the time, I thought we were just going through a rough patch. Now I know better. It started with small shifts, subtle, easy to explain away. Daniel stopped kissing me goodbye in the mornings. He'd mumble something half awake and grab his keys, already checking his emails on his phone. When he came home at night, his eyes were tired, his posture slumped, but his phone was always alert, always buzzing, always full of someone else's attention. I'd ask, "How was your day?" And he'd answer, "Long." Nothing more. No stories. No warmth. Just distance. But when his phone lit up, his whole face changed, like someone plugged life back into him. I still remember the first time I felt truly invisible. It was a Thursday night. Daniel told me he had a work dinner, something about a team retrospective thing. He said I should come. It'll be fun. I dressed up, fixed my hair, put on the necklace he bought me for our 5th anniversary. When we arrived at the restaurant, Ashley was already there, laughing, glowing, looking effortless. She walked up to him first, not me. She touched his arm. She leaned in close. Too close. "Daniel, I saved you a seat." A seat. Next to her. I felt my stomach twist. He hesitated, just for a second. But then he said, sure," and followed her. And suddenly, I was the outsider. The wife left standing there like an extra in a movie about my own marriage. Later, over cocktails, I noticed something else. She knew things about him I didn't. Inside jokes, work stories, preferences. She ordered his drink for him before he even said anything. "Old-fashioned, right?" she said. He smiled at her and said, "You know me too well." That line cut deeper than I let myself admit. When we got home that night, he fell asleep instantly, like nothing happened. I lay awake for hours. Weekends used to be our time. Coffee runs, farmers markets, lazy mornings in bed. But those weeks leading up to everything, weekends became empty. Daniel always found a reason to leave. Going to the gym, grabbing lunch with a coworker, helping Ashley with some project she's struggling with. It didn't matter what I suggested: hiking, movies, breakfast at the cafe he loved. He always had plans. And the worst part? I started pretending it didn't hurt. I'd say, "Oh sure, go ahead," with a smile so practiced it felt glued onto my face. Because I thought if I didn't pressure him, he'd come back to me on his own. He didn't. One night, he mentioned Ashley so casually it almost sounded normal. We were watching TV, something we used to do shoulder to shoulder. But lately, he'd been sitting farther away. During a commercial break, he said, "Ashley's thinking about leaving her boyfriend." I blinked. "Why are you talking about her relationship?" I asked. He shrugged. "She just vents to me. She trusts me." Something in me snapped a little. "And why does she trust you so much?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. He paused, then said, "Because I listen." I stared at him. "Do you hear yourself? You're acting like you're her emotional partner." He rolled his eyes. "Oh my God, Laura, everything isn't romantic. She's just a friend." But he didn't call her just a coworker. He said friend and defended her more passionately than he had defended me in months. That night was the first time I wondered if maybe he wasn't just drifting. Maybe he was being pulled. The next week, I confronted him. Not aggressively. Not angrily. Just a quiet question, while he was brushing his teeth. "Daniel, is there something going on with you and Ashley?" He froze, the toothbrush still in his mouth. He turned to me slowly, eyebrows raised like I'd insulted him. "Seriously?" he said, toothpaste dripping. "You're starting that now?" I felt my cheeks burn. Humiliation, shame, fear, everything mixing together. "I'm not trying to accuse." "But you are," he snapped, spit out the toothpaste, and shoved the drawer closed. "You're accusing me of cheating just because I'm helping someone." I shook my head. "I'm accusing you of crossing boundaries. There's a difference." He scoffed. "You're being dramatic." That word, dramatic. The same word men use to gaslight women into silence. He went to bed angry, turned his back to me. We never finished that conversation. And we never would. A woman who loves a man learns every shape of his silence. And Daniel's silence changed. He stopped touching me, stopped reaching for my hand, stopped hugging me when he came home. His eyes drifted when I talked. His smiles felt forced. His laughter was rare. But the worst part? He started flinching when I reached for him just slightly, like the connection felt inconvenient now. One night, when I kissed his cheek, he stiffened like the intimacy felt wrong. I lay in bed afterward, staring at the ceiling, feeling like a ghost in my own home. Jenna's warning. Jenna noticed before I had the courage to admit it. We were sitting in my car after grabbing coffee, the windows fogging from the cold. She looked at me and said, "You're shrinking, Laura." I frowned. "What do you mean? You're bending yourself into knots trying to make him comfortable. Meanwhile, he's giving his best self to another woman." I didn't answer. I couldn't. Then she grabbed my hand gently and said, "Please listen to me. Emotional cheating is still cheating, and he is absolutely emotionally cheating on you." That night, her words echoed in my head. The moment I knew. It was 2 days before the blow-up. Daniel was in the kitchen, actually laughing, while texting someone. I walked in quietly. He didn't notice. He typed something fast, smiled down at the screen, breathed out this soft little laugh I hadn't heard in months. And then he said under his breath, "You're ridiculous." But he wasn't talking to me. He was talking to her. I stepped closer. He locked his phone instantly. "Too fast?" I asked. "Who was that?" He said, "Work." The lie was so lazy, so careless, it almost felt insulting. And that was the moment something inside me dimmed. Not broke, not shattered, just dimmed like a light slowly turning off. I realized I was living in a marriage where I wasn't chosen anymore. And that realization is a different kind of heartbreak. The quiet kind. The kind that sits behind your ribs and makes a home there. The night before the text. The night before everything exploded, I had tried one last time to reconnect. I cooked his favorite dinner, set the table with candles, put on the playlist we used to dance to in the kitchen. He came home late, tired, distracted, barely looked at the table. "Didn't know you were doing all this," he muttered, loosening his tie. "You could have texted me." Texted him, to tell him I cooked for him. Something in my chest tightened. We ate in silence. He finished fast, grabbed his phone, went upstairs. I stayed at the table long after the candles burned out. And the next night, the night he was cooking dinner to make up for it, was the night Ashley texted, "I miss you." And I replied, "Come over, baby," and expanded. Because deep down, I needed the truth to walk through that door. Even if it broke me. The night everything shattered started out strangely calm. "Daniel decided he would cook dinner to make up for last night," he said. His voice was soft, too soft, like he was trying to smooth out tension with a gentle tone instead of an apology. He moved around the kitchen like nothing was wrong, like we weren't slowly bleeding out as a couple. The kitchen lights were warm. The smell of garlic and butter filled the air. He had music playing on his phone, a playlist he hadn't played in months. For a moment, I let myself hope. Maybe this was it. Maybe he finally realized he'd been distant. Maybe he wanted to reconnect. Maybe this night could save us. I leaned on the counter, watching him chop vegetables. His face relaxed in a way I hadn't seen in weeks. And then his phone buzzed. Just one small vibration. Barely noticeable. But his whole body reacted. He stiffened. His hand paused mid-air. His eyes flicked toward the phone, not even subtly. All of that in a single second. My stomach sank. He wiped his hands, took the phone, turned away from me, and read the screen. A soft smile formed. Not for me. Never for me anymore. For her. Ashley. I knew it before I even saw it. But then I did see it. Because he set the phone down for a split second, face up, unlocked, and there it was. A preview. "Ashley, I miss you." There's nodding. My heart dropped straight through me. The room went silent, despite the music still playing. I really watched him smile at her message the way he hadn't smiled at me in, God, how long. The knife slipped from my fingers and clattered onto the counter. He spun around, startled. "You okay?" he asked. His voice sounded so casual, so oblivious. I didn't answer. My eyes were fixed on his phone, and slowly, he realized. He lunged for it too fast, too desperate. That was confirmation enough. He tried to lock it, tried to hide it, tried to erase the moment. But the damage was done. My voice came out sharp, cracking at the edges. "Why is she texting you that?" His expression went flat. Not guilty, not apologetic, just annoyed. "Laura, it's not what it looks like." I laughed. Not out of humor, out of disbelief. "Daniel," she said, "she misses you. Why would she say that?" He rubbed his forehead like I was the one causing problems. "She's having a hard time with her breakup. She's emotional. She gets attached to people who support her. I'm trying to be a good friend. A good friend. A good friend." I felt sick. I stepped closer, gripping the edge of the counter to keep myself steady. "Then say it to my face," I whispered. "Say you haven't given her a reason to think she can talk to you like that." He hesitated. Just a breath, but a breath too long. The truth lived inside that pause. I watched everything inside me crack. Before I could speak again, his phone buzzed a second time. Another message popped up. "Ashley, are you alone?" That was it. The breaking point. The moment I felt something in me die. I grabbed his phone before he could stop me. He reached out. "Laura, don't," but I'd already seen enough. The messages weren't outright romantic. They weren't explicit. But they were worse. They were intimate, personal, private. They were the messages of two people who shared something emotional, something soft, something secret, things that used to belong to us. And then I saw the one message that made my blood run cold. From earlier that week. "Daniel, wish I could talk to you right now. Home is complicated." Home. Meaning me. Meaning I was the complication. I threw the phone onto the counter. He winced, like the sound hurt him more than the truth did. I stepped back, hands shaking, voice trembling. "How long has this been going on?" He shook his head. defensive. You're blowing this out of proportion. I stared at him, feeling the air thicken around me. Daniel. She told you she misses you. You tell her you wish you were talking to her instead of being home with me. Please tell me how that's not emotional cheating. He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again, then said the one thing that broke me more than the messages. You're not easy to talk to anymore. My breath caught. You shut down, he continued, avoiding my eyes. You're always on edge. I never know what version of you I'm coming home to. Ashley. She's supportive. She listens. I whispered. So you replaced me. He didn't deny it. Not with words, but with silence. And his silence was louder than any confession. I felt my chest tighten, my throat burn, tears pushing forward like a tidal wave I didn't want to release in front of him. I turned away, trying to breathe, trying not to collapse, trying not to beg. He took a step toward me. Laura. I put up a hand. Don't touch me. He froze. And for the first time, I think he realized he'd crossed a line he couldn't uncross. But then, the moment that changed everything. His phone buzzed again. I stared at it. Something inside me snapped cleanly, like a rope under too much tension. If he wanted honesty, I was going to get it. I picked up his phone, unlocked it. He lunged toward me, panic in his eyes. Laura, stop. But I was already typing, my heart pounding, my vision blurry. I typed 3 words. Come over, baby. Then I hit send. His face went pale like all the blood drained from his body. What did you just do? He whispered. I stared right at him. You want to see where this is going? Let's see. A very of a knout. He grabbed the phone. You're insane, Laura. What is wrong with you? I stepped back, voice breaking but steady in a way that scared even me. No, what's wrong is that you opened the door. I'm just letting the truth walk through it. Silence. Heavy. Thick. Suffocating. He stared at me like he didn't recognize the woman in front of him. Maybe he didn't. Maybe I didn't either. Minutes felt like hours. And then, his phone buzzed again. Both of us froze. He looked down at the screen. Ashley had replied, "Give me 20 minutes. I felt the world tilt. Daniel looked at me, panic exploding across his face. Laura. She thinks I'm serious. You need to text her back. Fix it. Fix it now." I shook my head slowly. No, Daniel. My voice was soft, almost gentle, like the eye of a tornado. We're done pretending. And that was the breaking point. The moment our marriage shattered. Everything after that was fallout. I didn't remember walking back inside my house, only the slamming door and the way the sound echoed through my ribs. I felt empty. Not the crying kind of hurt. The silent kind. The dangerous kind. The kitchen was still warm, still smelling like garlic and butter. Dylan's half-chopped onions sat on the cutting board like nothing had happened, like the world hadn't just split open. I stood there, staring at those onions, realizing that for years, I'd been the one getting cut. And suddenly, finally, something inside me clicked. Maybe it was survival. Maybe it was anger finally growing bones. Or maybe it was the way Dylan looked at me, like I was the inconvenience ruining his perfect double life. But what happened next? That was the moment everything began to change. Are you okay? A voice came from behind me, soft, unsure. I spun around, shocked. It was Emily, the real Emily. She stood in the doorway, mascara streaked, hair messy like she'd run all the way here. For a split second, I thought I was hallucinating. What are you doing here? My voice cracked. She swallowed hard. I got your text. My stomach dropped. Oh God. She thought Dylan really said, "Come over, baby." She wrung her hands, eyes darting around. I thought he wanted to talk, or explain, or end things. Her voice shook on that last line. "Emily," I whispered, feeling the world tilt. "I sent that text." Her breath caught. "You did?" Behind me, I heard Dylan mutter, "Oh, fantastic," under his breath. Emily flinched at his tone. Something inside me surged, protective, fierce, almost maternal. I saw it clearly now. She wasn't some seductive mastermind. She was a kid in over her head, scared, confused, groomed to think a 38-year-old married man was her soulmate. She looked at Dylan with wide eyes. "You told me you were separated." I swear the air froze. Dylan's face drained of color. "Emily, not now." "No," she whispered, stepping backward like she'd been slapped. "You said you lived in the guest bedroom. You said the marriage was emotionally over. You said she didn't care about you." Her eyes lifted to mine, guilt, shame, heartbreak, all tangled together. "I'm so sorry," she breathed. "I didn't know. I swear I didn't know." And for the first time tonight, somebody believed me. Emily looked like she might collapse, so I pulled out a stool. "Sit," I murmured. She hesitated, then sat, not beside Dylan, beside me. That tiny movement, her choosing my side, shifted something seismic in the room. Dylan scoffed. "You two are ridiculous. You're ganging up on me now?" Emily let out a sharp, devastating laugh. "You lied to me. To both of us." "I didn't lie," he argued, voice rising. "I misrepresented things." "Misrepresented?" I snapped. He spun toward me, but I wasn't the same woman who had confronted him 30 minutes ago. I wasn't broken. I wasn't begging. I was clear. And clarity was power. "Dylan," I said quietly, "tell her the truth. Tell her you're not separated." He crossed his arms. "I'm not having this conversation with two emotionally unstable." Emily stood so fast the stool scraped loudly. "I'm done," she said. "I'm done with this." She looked at me again, tears slipping down her face. "You didn't deserve any of this. He made me think you were the villain." I felt my throat tighten, but for once, not from pain. "Thank you," I whispered. She nodded, took one last shaky breath, and walked out. But not before saying, "Don't let him make you feel small. You're nothing like what he said." Her footsteps faded down the hall. The door shut softly. And in the silence that followed, something inside me settled. I am not crazy. I am not imagining things. I am not the problem. The truth had walked into my kitchen in mascara-streaked tears and stood beside me. Dylan broke first. "You made a mess," he snapped. "Do you realize what you just did?" I turned to him slowly. "No, Dylan, you did." He stared at me, confused that his usual tactics weren't working. The gaslighting, the guilt-tripping, the "you're overreacting," the "she's just a friend," the shifting blame. All of it bounced off me like raindrops on stone. "From now on," I said, voice steady, "every single thing you say, I will verify. Every behavior, I will document. And every step I take will be toward getting my life back." He scoffed. "Don't be dramatic." I smiled. God, I had wasted so many years on that line. "This isn't drama," I said softly. "This is clarity." And with that, I picked up my phone, not to text him, not to fight, but to call the one person I had avoided involving the one person Dylan hated me confiding in, my older sister, Megan. As the phone rang, Dylan's expression changed from annoyance to fear, because he knew. Once Megan knew, the cracks in his facade wouldn't just show, they'd explode. And that was the precise moment, the turning point, when I realized I wasn't fighting for him anymore. I was fighting for me. I expected Megan to answer the phone with her usual sarcasm or her blunt, protective older sister tone. But instead, I heard panic. "Olivia, what happened? Are you home? Are you safe?" My brows pulled together. "Safe? What are you talking about?" There was a rustle, like she was grabbing her keys. Then her voice dropped. "Liv, I need you to listen carefully. Don't let Dylan leave the house." My entire body froze. Beside me, Dylan stiffened too, like he knew exactly what she was talking about. "What's going on?" I whispered. But Megan didn't answer. Instead, I heard her suck in a breath, deciding whether she should say it. "Finally, there's something you don't know about Dylan, something I should have told you a long time ago." Before I could ask what she meant, she added, "I'm already on my way." She hung up. Just like that. No explanation. No details. Just, "Don't let him leave." I turned slowly toward Dylan. His face wasn't angry. It wasn't defensive. It was terrified. Genuine, bone-deep terror. "Why?" I asked quietly. "Would my sister tell me not to let you leave the house?" He backed up a step. "Olivia, whatever she told you, she's lying. She's always hated me." I shook my head. "She didn't tell me anything." And that right there was the twist. Dylan blanched, realizing he'd just exposed himself without even being accused. "Sit down," I said. "I'm not." "Sit." The word came out of me like steel. He sat. He rubbed his hands together, breathing fast. "Look, Olivia, there's something you need to understand." I braced myself. Cheating, lies, manipulation. That, I expected. But then he said something I never saw coming. Emily wasn't the first. My stomach dropped. He didn't stop. And she wasn't supposed to catch feelings. That wasn't part of the deal. I stared at him, not understanding. "The deal?" I echoed. He swallowed. "The arrangement." "What arrangement, Dylan?" He scrubbed a shaky hand across his face. "I was part of a mentorship group." I blinked. "A what?" He sighed heavily. "A private group, for men. To help with confidence, networking, leadership." A chill ran through me. I knew exactly what that sounded like. "Are you talking about that incel-adjacent Men of Valor group you used to mention?" His silence was my answer. I took a step back. "Dylan, what does that have to do with Emily?" He winced like the truth physically hurt him. "They encourage connections with younger women, to build confidence, to feel desired, to create power dynamics." I raised a hand. "Stop." But he didn't. "They match members with women who fit certain traits, low self-esteem, anxious, eager to please." "Dylan, stop." "Emily wasn't random," he whispered. "She was assigned." My blood ran cold. Assigned. Not an affair. Not a spontaneous emotional connection. Not even organic betrayal. It was orchestrated, cultivated, manipulated. He went on, voice shaking. "They told us that women our age are too difficult, too emotional, too demanding. They said younger women made us better men." My heart twisted, not with love, with fury, with disgust, with heartbreak for Emily, for me, for every woman hurt by this cult. He kept talking, like confessing would lighten the weight crushing him. "They told us to hide the grooming behind mentorship, that if the girl caught feelings good, it meant the method was working." "Dermot," I stared at him, horrified. "And what if she didn't?" I whispered. He looked at the floor. "Then you move on to another girl. Another manipulated heart, another betrayal." My voice came out barely audible. "How many were there, Dylan?" He shook his head, eyes glassy. I don't know." That was the answer that broke something in me forever. Just then, the doorbell rang. My sister. But she wasn't alone. 2 officers stood behind her. I spun toward her. "Megan, what is this?" Her jaw was tight, her eyes burning with the kind of rage only an older sister can hold. "Olivia, Dylan isn't just cheating." She stepped aside so one of the officers could speak. "We need to ask Dylan a few questions regarding an ongoing investigation connected to the Men of Valor group." My lungs stopped working. The officer continued. "There have been multiple reports involving coercion, emotional manipulation, workplace grooming, and digital evidence of planned misconduct with women under his supervision." My ears rang. It felt like the floor tilted. But the officer wasn't finished. "We have reason to believe your husband is involved in recruiting additional members." "Recruiting? Not just participating," Dylan whispered. No, this isn't happening. Bees." End quote. "Also every 3. Megan stepped forward, her voice shaking with fury. "Olivia, he tried to recruit my friend's husband. That's how I found out." I snapped my eyes to her. "You knew?" "I suspected," she corrected, "and I told you to be careful, but I never had proof." She turned to Dylan. "You gave my friend's husband those creepy manuals, the relationship rules, the manipulation scripts." Scripts for manipulating women. And suddenly, everything about my marriage made sense in a new, horrifying way. The emotional distance, the gaslighting patterns, the coldness, the secret group chats, the shift in how he spoke to me. He wasn't just cheating. He was being trained to devalue me. As the officers stepped inside to question him, Dylan looked at me with panic, not love. "Olivia, help me." I shook my head slowly. "I already did," I whispered. "When I replied to Emily for you, Adiance, Ottawa, because that text, 'Come over, baby,' wasn't the trap he thought it was. It was the moment the truth walked right into my kitchen, and everything unraveled. The revelation wasn't the affair. The twist was realizing this wasn't just betrayal. This was indoctrination, manipulation, a system. And Dylan wasn't just unfaithful. He was part of something poisonous, something that was finally crumbling, starting now. The moment the officers stepped deeper into the living room, the entire power dynamic of my marriage flipped. For years, Dylan had held control with confidence, arrogance, and subtle fear tactics. But now, he looked small, cornered, exposed. One of the officers spoke calmly. "Mr. Turner, we're not placing you under arrest at this time, but we do need to ask you several questions about your role in the Men of Valor group and your interactions with multiple women, some of whom were under your professional supervision." Dylan's voice cracked. This is blown out of Olivia. Please tell them I'm not a bad guy. Tell them I'm a good husband." I just stared at him. A good husband? The audacity of that lie almost made me laugh. "I'm not speaking for you," I said quietly. "Not anymore." Nein. He looked stunned, like he'd genuinely never expected me to detach from him, even after everything. One of the officers nodded toward me. "Mrs. Turner, would you mind stepping into the hallway while we speak with your husband?" Before I could move, Dylan lunged forward, desperate. "Liv, you can't let them twist this. I did everything for us. Everything I did." I lifted a hand. And for the first time, he actually stopped talking. "No, Dylan. Everything you did was for yourself. It has the adorism." The officers escorted him to the kitchen to begin their questioning. His voice got smaller, shakier, more frantic. The same man who once towered over me emotionally, now trembled in his own home. And as I stepped into the hallway with Megan, something inside me, something heavy, finally slipped off my shoulders. Not sadness, not regret. Relief. Megan wrapped an arm around me. "You okay?" I nodded slowly, breathing deeply for what felt like the first time in years. "I think I am, or I will be." She exhaled, her anger melting into concern. "Liv, I'm so sorry. I should have pushed harder. I should have told you earlier. You warned me." I leaned into her, exhausted but clearer than ever. I just wasn't ready to believe it. We stood in silence for a moment, the murmur of questioning drifting down the hallway. Then, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I opened it, bracing for more chaos. But instead, it was Emily. "Emily." I gave my statement. I told the investigators everything. Not just about me, but about what he said about you too. You deserved the truth. I hope you're okay. I stared at the message, feeling something warm rise inside my chest. Support, justice, sisterhood. 3 things I hadn't felt in a long time. I typed back, "Me. Thank you. Really." 30 minutes later, the officers walked Dylan out of the kitchen. His face was pale. His eyes were glassy. His hands shook. "Mr. Turner, we'll be in contact," one officer said. "Do not leave the state, and do not attempt to contact any of the complainants." He swallowed hard and nodded. The front door closed behind them. Silence. Then Dylan spun toward me. "You ruined my life." I met his eyes calmly. "No, Dylan. You built a life on lies. It was going to collapse eventually. I just stopped holding it up." His jaw clenched. "You're leaving me over this?" I tilted my head. "You left me long before this. It's all so obvious." He froze. He didn't have an argument. He didn't have a comeback. His scripts, his manipulation tactics, his confidence, they were useless now. Because I finally saw the truth. I wasn't losing a husband. I was escaping a cage. And the moment I realized that, I found my strength again. I walked past him, grabbed my purse, my keys, and my phone. "I'm going to stay with Megan tonight." "What am I supposed to do?" he called after me, voice cracking. I paused at the door. I was sitting at Megan's kitchen counter, sipping coffee, scrolling through emails, still numb but breathing a little easier, when a notification popped up on my phone. A news alert. Local tech firm under investigation for employee grooming network tied to Men of Valor organization. My thumb froze above the screen. Under the headline was a photo, not of Dylan, but of his company building the place he strutted into every morning like a king stepping into his castle. My heart pounded. I clicked the article. There it was. Multiple employees placed on administrative leave pending internal investigation. Anonymous sources confirm misconduct reports involving a mentorship group promoting coercive behavior toward female staff. And then, the name that made my breath catch. Dylan Turner, Senior Project Manager. It didn't say what he did. It didn't need to. Everyone would know. Everyone at work. Everyone at church. Everyone in our neighborhood Facebook group that he loved posting his perfect family life on. Within hours, Megan texted me screenshots from a mom group thread. "Did anyone see this? Isn't that Olivia's husband?" I knew something was off about him. He gave me creeps at the block party. Poor Olivia. Hope she's okay. For the first time, I didn't feel embarrassed. I felt seen. And, strangely, vindicated. That afternoon, the HR director from Dylan's company called me. A woman. Her voice steady, professional, compassionate. "Mrs. Turner, we're conducting a formal investigation. Emily informed us of your situation and identified you as someone who may have relevant information. Would you be willing to provide a statement?" I swallowed. Not out of fear, but out of the weight of the moment. "Yes," I said, "I would." And just like that, Dylan's world shrank another size. Because his biggest fear was never losing me. It was losing his image, his authority, his social standing. And now? The facade he'd spent years crafting was crumbling in broad daylight. 2 weeks later, Megan and I were sitting on her couch, watching trashy TV and eating popcorn, when my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. I opened it. It was from one of the Men of Valor members, a man I'd never met. "I thought you deserved to know. Dylan has been removed from the group. They've cut him off completely. He's been publicly banned for misconduct. He tried to say you framed him. No one believed him." I stared at the message. Removed. Banned. Outcast. From the group that fed his ego, the group that validated him, the group he betrayed me for. He lost the only thing he truly valued, the power those men gave him. And the irony burned brighter than any revenge I could have planned. Dylan groomed women because he wanted to feel powerful. And now, he had none. No marriage. No status. No group. No respect. Just consequences. Finally. And as for me, watching karma unfold wasn't bitter. It wasn't satisfying in a cruel way. It was necessary. He finally faced the consequences of years of manipulation. And I finally stepped out of his shadow. Karma didn't just come for him. It freed me. I didn't go back. Not once. Not when Dylan texted frantic apologies. Not when he tried to call me. Not when he left flowers on Megan's porch with a note that said, "I made a mistake. I still love you." I didn't go back. Because the person I was yesterday, the woman willing to ignore red flags, forgive too easily, and twist herself into knots to save a broken marriage, that person was gone. I had been betrayed, manipulated, used. And yet, in that darkness, I found something brighter than any marriage could give me. I found myself. It wasn't instant. Healing never is. The first few nights after Dylan left my life for good, I barely slept. I replayed every conversation, every text, every laugh that had once felt safe. I cried. I screamed. I questioned myself. I wondered if I had been blind, if I had ignored the signs, but slowly, things changed. I started waking up for myself, not for him, not for appearances, for me. I moved into my own apartment with Megan's help. Cozy, sunlight-filled, filled with little comforts I hadn't allowed myself in years: fresh flowers, scented candles, an armchair for reading. I began journaling every night, every thought, every fear, every small victory. And with every entry, I felt the weight lift, brick by brick. I didn't just survive. I thrived. I reconnected with old friends I had neglected while trying to maintain the illusion of a happy marriage. I laughed again. Really laughed. I started therapy, unpacking years of gaslighting and control, learning how to set boundaries, and how to trust my instincts. I also reached out to Emily, not to rekindle anything, but to support her. She had been manipulated too, used as a pawn, and now she was trying to rebuild her life as well. We shared long conversations, tea and tears, and slowly, we built a friendship founded on honesty and mutual respect. And it felt liberating. Meanwhile, Dylan's world continued to unravel. The Men of Valor group publicly banned him, as I had learned from the text Megan forwarded me. His coworkers and friends began to see the real man behind the charm, the man who manipulated, lied, and preyed on women's trust. Social media, once his arena of curated perfection, became a mirror reflecting his failures. I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. It was enough to know that justice, slow, steady, unavoidable justice, had caught up with him. From living in fear to reclaiming freedom, dignity, and self-respect, I realized something vital. Happiness isn't found in someone choosing you. It's found in choosing yourself. Dylan's betrayal could have broken me, but it didn't. Instead, it became the catalyst for my awakening. I learned to trust my instincts. I learned to recognize manipulation. I learned that love without respect is not love, it's survival. And most importantly, I learned that my worth was never tied to his choices. Life, I realized, has a way of balancing itself. Sometimes it's slow, sometimes it's harsh, but truth and accountability always find their way. I had been patient, and I had survived. Now, I was free. Months later, I met a new man. Not someone to replace Dylan, never that. Someone who met me as I was, strong, aware, healed, and unafraid to speak my mind. We dated casually, slowly, intentionally. He never rushed me, never tried to control me. He simply walked beside me, respecting my space, admiring my strength, and laughing with me. I also reconnected with my family and deepened friendships I had let fade. I realized life is richer when shared with people who value your truth, not just your presence. And every time I passed Dylan's old apartment building on the street, I felt nothing. No anger, no longing, only a quiet acknowledgement. He got what he deserved, and I got what I needed. Freedom, peace, myself. If there's one message I want to leave for anyone listening today, it's this: you are never too broken to rebuild. You are never too wounded to find your power. And betrayal, no matter how deep, is never the end of your story. Sometimes, the hardest endings lead to the brightest beginnings. Sometimes, the person you thought you lost was the person you were finding all along. I will never forget what Dylan did, but I will also never forget the woman I became because of it. Strong, brave, unstoppable, free. And that is a life worth living.